Good afternoon. This is the Rudy Giuliani Show, live as all the Rudy Giuliani shows are. So far, we're thinking about a podcast, but we'll get you confused with that later. So right now, it's all live, and then you can watch it after to your heart's content. You can watch it because you enjoy it. You can watch it because you agree with it. You can watch it because you learn something from it. You can watch it because it makes you laugh. You can watch because you want to ridicule me. You can watch it because you can then write that I'm wrong. You can watch it so that you can correct me. You can watch it so you can try to put me in jail, as yesterday was my adventure. My adventure in Phoenix, Arizona, a city I used to love when I was a boy because, among other things, in my childhood pursuits that I got over when I was about 15, and Biden is still going through them, I wanted to be a cowboy. Uh-huh. Yeah, you're going to say, well, what didn't you want to be, Giuliani? Never wanted to be a gangster or a crooked politician. Uh-huh. Never wanted to be a drug user that drove automobiles. Never wanted to be someone who hit women. My father said I wouldn't be a man if I was. There are a lot of things I didn't want to be. A lot of things I did want to be. Things you'd never even guess about. I think I tried them all on for size. And when I wanted to be them, you can't believe how enthusiastic I was about it. But in any event, we went to Phoenix, and I won't get you. We'll do at some point when we're doing cities. I'll give you a little analysis of where I think the city is, and I'm going to do a little more of that now that I go to cities. I have a little more time, and when I was traveling a great deal, which would be between 2002 and about 2007, and then again between 2009 and 2015. When I was traveling a lot, when I say a lot, I mean, oh my goodness, over 100 foreign countries, 180 foreign trips. Every state, pretty close. If you combine where I had been in the past with this, I've done every state. If I just look at that 10-year period contracted, did I do every state? I think I'm about one or two short. But in any event, I always went and I had a little extra time, always did some studying. So I know a lot about all these places. And my first trip to Phoenix, I was an assistant U.S. attorney. Loved the place. Loved it. Gorgeous. I could see why people were moving out there. Then Tucson, I spent a week in Tucson trying Joe Bonanno, the head of the Bonanno crime family.
Why was that in Tucson?
Because he claimed he was too sick to even leave the hospital, and therefore too sick to go to trial. He had used this for 25 years of prosecutors of lesser determination than Rudolph W. Giuliani. Nothing like the bums we have now, but prosecutors of lesser determination. So I said, okay, Joe. I went to see Judge Owen, who ran the case. I said, Judge Owen, we need a ruling on whether he's healthy enough to testify. He wants a hearing. I could give it to the judge in Tucson, but he did, after all, pay for all the hospitals in Tucson. Judge looked at me with that knowing eye of a judge who had done what I did 20 years earlier. And he said, I like Tucson. Let's take a little trip there. So he installed himself in the Southern District of Arizona, got permission, and he held a hearing. 4 days, 105-degree temperature. Uncle Joe got packed on a plane, and we sent him off to Leavenworth for the first time in 25 years. He had escaped going to jail because his heart was too bad. He had a bad heart. He could die if he went to prison. He lived for another 22 years. We went into his garbage and we got little things out with him telling his doctor and his grandson, who he did to his grandson what our bum president did to his son. He kind of corrupted him. Instead of letting the kid become a doctor, he let him become a doctor who would lie for him. So he'd write this stuff out for his grandson to tell the doctor, because it would fit into the hearing better. And the Arizona State Police, the Arizona Bureau of Investigation, had begun that on their own, and they gave us the fruits of it. We nailed the son of a bitch. Just nailed him. Well, that gets me to what Phoenix was like yesterday. They said it wasn't even warm. It was like 96, 98, right?
I mean, you could. It's the type of weather. I'm from Michigan. You could feel the sun on you, right? Like you could feel the rays hitting you. But it's funny, yeah. Some of the folks we interacted with that day.
Oh, come on, you're a bunch of sisters.
Oh, this is nothing.
110. Yeah. And I was there when I tried Bonanno in Tucson. It was over 100 degrees every day. And I had promised some of my assistants that I brought with me, who all worked. They weren't like. And first of all, I did most of the work. I'm not like a lazy bum like Bragg, who doesn't know what he's doing and is afraid to get up in court. I handled it myself, along with a great lawyer who you'll know. Michael Chertoff, who was my assistant at the time, later head of the Department of Homeland Security. Well, we just nailed him, got him what he deserved. In any event, they got a case on me. I don't even know. They haven't given me an indictment yet. I do not have the indictment, but so what? Trump doesn't know what he was convicted of yet. They promised me before I went away for the rest of my life, they'd let me know what I was tried for and convicted of. But they don't want me to have an advantage in my defense by knowing what I'm charged with. That's the way they think. Well, what do you think? I'm trying to find the right combination of the following. The conviction of Hunter Biden on all three counts involving the drugs is certainly more than justified. In fact, it's the only result you could reach without gross miscarriage of justice if you found him not guilty. He clearly bought the gun. He lied. He sure knew he was an addict. He sure knew he was involved in drugs. I mean, if he didn't order it that day, he ordered some the next day and the day after. All during that year, he was constantly using drugs. He described it in his own words as one of his worst years for drugs. He told both of his mistresses that he was using drugs the next day and the day after. There are pictures of him using drugs within, I can't remember exactly, certainly within a month or two, before and after. And then, worst of all, if we're going to do this jury nullification garbage, it's because of a great deal of sympathy. Well, there's nothing sympathetic about this particular drug addict. This drug addict has been a drug addict all his life. He's never done anything to seriously rehabilitate himself. If you take a look at his bouts with rehab, which are numerous, they're usually a big phony exercise where he sets himself up prostitutes and drugs in the area in which he's getting rehab and has them snuck into him. Number two, which is a big waste of money for him, his family. I probably comes out of his half, not Joe's, but who knows? Second, he's a dangerous drug addict. He drives automobiles while under the influence. There are pictures, and more than one, of him driving that stupid automobile he and his father had, which was the locus of the Chinese espionage, which, of course, they'll never go into, while he's got a pipe puff, fall over, whatever, big smile on his face, even tweeting about, how he's, whatever, going around with my crack or cracking this or whatever stupid language they use. I believe a couple of times he has people in the car when he's driving. All the time there are pedestrians in the street, all of them at risk of being killed by this drug addict who certainly isn't benign. And finally, there are definitive messages left out from the jury because it was still a setup in which he is declared by at least one psychiatrist, hard to tell, could be more than another, as being sexually inappropriate with his minor nieces and nephews with whom he lived, and also parading around with this may be part of it, part overlap, parading around with no clothes on, smoking crack, talking to prostitutes during this period of time about sex and drugs. So he is, in his own words, quote, a danger to the kids, close quote. So I don't know how we get him into this, poor sympathetic drug addict is a victim with crime. He had definitive victims. Finally, this law doesn't work. if you get all squishy and you let all the drug dealers out. What's the purpose of the law? And Biden just gave a speech to a bunch of set up people on gun control. The purpose of the law is to keep guns out of the hands of the criminally insane, the criminals, and those who are addicted to drugs because they're not responsible for themselves. And when we are on the side of who do we want to be good to, the drug addicts who put people's lives in jeopardy, or the poor people who are killed by them. It's the poor people that are killed by them that those of us who don't vote Democrat put first. Democrats now put the criminals first for everything. So the conviction is certainly worth it. Is it enough? No. If it ends with this, we've had a miscarriage of justice. And I'll explain that when we return.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
I also think this was a good thing. Oh, by the way, this is Rudy Giuliani, and welcome back to the Rudy Giuliani Show. I also think it was a good thing that the jury showed all that worry about it being fixed because it's Delaware. Everybody in Delaware is owned by the Bidens, which I had heard from independent people, not just the silly newspapers, told by the police even that there's a concern about that. And these jurors didn't seem like Republicans to me, but maybe we're starting to scratch down to all of those vast majority of Democrats who are good Americans and good people and really get upset when they hear about putting the lives of innocent people in jeopardy because you're running around like a crazy drug addict. I mean, from the brief bit of evidence in the case, it was left to appear that he lured his sister-in-law into drug addiction, which then put her children in jeopardy of being drug addicts. It sure looked like he didn't give a damn if he killed anybody behind the wheels of that car. So, okay. But is it enough? No. The real criminal here is, without any doubt, Joe Biden. This would be a pure tragedy if it ends up with Joe holding the veritable bag. I mean, from the time this guy was a teenager, he had what do they call an addictive personality. He of the litter, he was the weakling, right? Bo was the big one. Whether that's true or not, or that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, only God and a psychiatrist would know. But that's the way it played out. If you are a father if you're a human father, rather than a bad turncoat animal father, of which there are very few, you would never put your son in the drug business. You'd never use your son as a business associate of some of the worst criminals in the world. There were plenty before Zlochevsky, but Zlochevsky jumps out at you as major member, Russian organized crime, Ukrainian organized crime. Not only was he a bad guy and a crook and stole oil and gas properties, stole money, laundered money through Zelensky's friend Kolomoisky, but he also was suspected of bumping off his partner. So he got all the makings of the mafia, which of course shouldn't mean very much. Since you don't know this, I just keep repeating it and they never play it. He was, for the longest time, a partner of Whitey, he being Hunter, was a partner of Whitey Bulge's nephew in a organization that had a worse partner, Red China. How is that ignored? Why don't you know that? As an informed American voter, you should know that the president's son, who he is very close to and who he has with him on numerous trips where he is exposed to the deepest and darkest secrets, that he is a partner of the nephew of someone now dead, but at the time, one of the most notorious organized criminals who had had an unholy relationship with the FBI. They let him kill people. This isn't worth looking at. Instead, we get him on. He's a drug addict buying guns, which it should be done. Drug addicts should not buy guns. Drug addicts that are as bad as he is should have an extra penalty for buying guns. If you want to make up a distinction between someone who's a very, very minor user of drugs, does it occasionally, it's not habitual, and somebody who is a habitual user of drugs. Hit them hard with a deep penalty, because that is not victimless. Drugs render you irresponsible. You put a murder weapon in their hands. Look, he took the two classic weapons. He took the two classic neutral objects. Well, that's not fair. A gun is more than. Let's just bear with me for a minute. He took the two objects that could be used for good or bad, and he used them for only one purpose: bad, as an addict, right? So, an automobile is perfectly fine to drive. An automobile is a deadly weapon as well. He made it into a deadly weapon. A gun is perfectly fine to have to protect yourself, or to hunt, or whatever, right? A gun is a deadly weapon in the hands of a drug addict because he doesn't know what he's doing. We should not have to take the risk of that, and you shouldn't let them off the hook when they do it, because you're opting for the criminal or for the person who needs help, and you're opting against the innocent victims, like could be the end result of this. But now, would we please get into the rest of it? Like, just around that time, he sends Naomi a text saying, "I give half the money to Dad." Will you stop? There's no evidence of Joe getting money. There's the best evidence in the world that Joe gets money. An admission by his co-conspirator in black and white. And then 50, exhibit 2 to 50. Your Honor, here are two money laundering transactions involving Joe Biden, accepted in evidence. Your Honor, here's a tape recording in which it's quite obvious that he's sharing in the money, admitted into evidence. Your Honor, here are 4 witnesses that'll testify now that Joe shared in the money. Those are everything I just mentioned falls into the category where the crooked press, the crooked people around him, and just the dumb soft heads will constantly say there's no evidence. And Rudy Giuliani sits there saying, how do they let him get away with that? We could pile up something like this on the table. Oh, bigger. So let's see what happens here. Joe gave a speech to a bunch of gun whatevers. They sound like a bunch of kids that were paid to cheer. First time Joe's been cheered in 2 years. Of course, they cheered at the wrong times. Hunter Biden has been convicted. Yeah. 4 more years. Hunter Biden was convicted of 3 major felonies. 4 more years. Oh, that kind of thing. So Hunter is now gone home. He's in a state of confusion. Never think that he should maybe go to his kid directly right from there, because you never know what you're going to send there. He's got to go back to the White House for his daytime treatments. You know, he gets daytime treatment so that he can make it through 2 hours of the nighttime. And we'll see what emerges tonight. And we're going to take a look and see some of the possibilities that could emerge tonight from our highly embarrassing, very, very dangerous, demented commander-in-chief. We'll be right back after these short messages. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Yeah, let's show. If he has a message, let him.
And we're back. Mayor, I have a short clip from Joe Biden celebrating what Juneteenth. I'm not totally sure about Juneteenth, and but here's a clip of
Doesn't matter. Here's what we celebrate. Oh, I mean, that goes on for how much longer, Ted? Be fair. How much longer? Another
clip that I have is 1minute and 10 seconds, but presumably, yeah.
We see about half.
We watched about a minute of it.
Okay,
almost
another half minute to go. At one point, he leans over to the guy, and he looks very serious, like he's now gotten confused about what it is. Look, I mean, do you have to be a genius to figure out something? I mean, if you didn't know that guy and you saw that clip, all those people are dancing, and he had this unknowing, stupid shit-eating grin on his face, wouldn't you say to yourself, gee, we got to take a look at that guy? Shouldn't I could let him near my kids? Right? I mean, and this is after, I mean, the one that really got me in Europe, sort of a desecration to our brave men who died on D-Day, was when he tried to sit down with no chair. Mike ran in here right before my show that night, convinced that he was doing what he did with the Pope, and which is not really corroborated as effectively as I would like. It's secondary corroboration of a tremendous smell and noise occurred, and the Pope seemed to be knowing. Of course, he is all knowing. So, look, one of these things, two of these things, even three, but every trip an embarrassment. The one where he goes to Cambodia and gets off the plane and immediately thinks he's in Colombia and greets the Colombian president, who does not look Colombian. He looks Asian.
I mean, this is Mayor, and just when you think it couldn't get any worse, he appears to be getting worse.
There is no doubt about it that he is worse. There's no doubt about it. What I don't know. Last time he did fool me a bit, but we never got a fair test of it because neither the president a few times saved him unwittingly, And the moderator was very smart, and the moderator seemed to know what we knew, that he couldn't go more than a minute and a half or so. And the minute she could see in his eyes that I mean, I can kind of watch it now and see it. Yeah, there's a little teeny confusion you see in the face. Now, here's what's going on, the doctors tell me. When you see that confusion in Dumbface, what you're seeing is he doesn't remember what he's talking about. It is the shortest of short-term memory, and he loses it. Now he's in a panic because he doesn't want to go on to another totally unrelated subject and sound like what he is, a brain-injured man. So sometimes he'll try to fake it and he'll be wrong. So you make this immediate switch to a totally different subject. It bears no relationship at all. Or you get the I pledge allegiance to the flag and the United States of America, and you know, because he knows that. What do you do in the middle of the Pledge of Allegiance to make it sound like you're still saying the Pledge of Allegiance, but you're not? So that is an actual serious. That is a symptom. Let me put it this way: of serious Alzheimer's or dementia. It is particularly noted in the BDS-5 as an indication, particularly if it occurs at a fairly early stage, and this occurred 4 years ago, you're going to have a hell of a case. Well, it looks like he has a hell of a case. And what's he doing in charge of our nuclear defenses? I mean, and making strategy. For example, he's right now negotiating behind Israel's back because he wants to negotiate himself with Hamas to get our hostages back. Now, this is really interesting because for 6 months, he's not given a damn about our hostages. I do not think he's ever mentioned their names but once, when he incorrectly thought that one of them was in the audience. It was kind of like when he thought the dead congresswoman was alive. You know, I'm not making this up. I wish I was. I do. I mean, I would take a crooked Democratic president who knew who the hell he was over one who doesn't, because maybe you'd think there'd be something good left in him. Now, in his case, I haven't found it. I haven't found the good left in him. If you have, let me know. Okay? So here are the people we never talk about. We knew all those hostages were out there, even under Jimmy Carter, who wasn't afraid to have their names out there. This guy tries to make them go away. For over a year now, they've been hidden. And Eden Alexander, Segui, Dekel Chen, Hirsch, Goldberg, Pollan. He has had some publicity lately. Joe actually greeted him, thinking he had been freed at an audience in some city with his parents there, to their chagrin and, I would imagine, great pain. It's good to see you, Hirsch. Where? He's not here. He's being held in a mosque enslavement area. Omar Nutra, Keith Siegel, those are the Americans that are alive, as well as Israeli Americans who we believe have been killed, who were killed during the October 7 attack, but they took the bodies in order to torture the families. Ite Chen, Judy Weinstein, and Gad Hagen. So those are, as far as we know, the Americans involved in this, for which he has shown no interest because he hates Americans. It's like the biggest contrast you could get with America First is America not at all. And he now wants to negotiate for them. And the negotiations would not include Israel. What is he going to? Wants to give them more money? Arms to kill Israelis? Promise that he'll double cross Israel some more? And what's he going to negotiate with? What about attempting what the Israelis did? Joe, we've got, I'm not going to give away the number, not that I have it accurately anyway at this point. It changes over time, and my information goes back to when we had presidents and these people were practicing. But I am assured by people who are decent Americans, unlike you, and very dedicated Americans, unlike you, and who care about the lives of our hostages, that in various situations, they would rate their chance of getting our person out better than the fact that they're going to emerge alive from the tender mercies of one of the most vicious terrorist groups in the world. And if it were your child, you'd have to. It would be hard, but you'd have to take a good look at it. And they would take you through it. They'd make you make the choice. I mean, they show you the ones that went right. They'd show you the ones that went wrong. And they'd show you what assets they had here that made them confident they could do it, or more questionable as whether they could. How good is the information as to where he's located? What kind of assets do they have in that area? So when the Israelis pull this one off, the problems occurred after the hostages were extracted, which is good and bad. I don't know if they anticipated the problems. That's important just as a learning tool, because the next time it could have occurred before and everybody would be dead. So basically, they had located three sites in Nuseirat, which is in the middle of Gaza, and it's a compound, so it's a little harder to get into. But they had, I would say, help. Enough said about that. And they knew that they were in buildings. The young woman in a building with one family who had her in the basement, and the three men in a bigger building locked into rooms, treated horribly. And then a block or two away, a major compound area where everybody hung out. And their plan was as follows, and there's probably more to it. This is the part that you can extricate from what you see. They were going to hit all three at the same time. They were going to go after her in the house. They were going to go after the three guys in the compound, and they were going to beat the shit out of that other place and make it the focal point. So all attention went to the compound where all the people were.
And here we have video right now showing these are presumably the Israeli men.
Taking the men out. Those are the Israeli men. Two were in their 20s and one in his 40s. The female had become quite famous on the 7th because there were pictures of her trying to avoid escape. She was a Chinese Israeli, born in China, but maybe to a Jewish mom. I'm not sure, but she's Israeli and Jewish. And she was in a room, and they got her out as well. But at the time they were doing it, they were hitting 2 blocks away with major, major arms. And you can actually see the smoke and fire from that, which of course would tend to bring all the forces in that direction. Well, they got the people out, and before they got out, the terrorist forces were reinforced, and they had quite a gun battle. They had quite a gun battle there, and that's where most of the casualties took place. So when you say civilians were killed here, they were killed in a back and forth in which the Israelis were fighting for their lives. There was no, I mean, as far as the Israelis were concerned, they didn't want to kill anybody that wasn't going to kill them. Anybody that got killed that way either got killed accidentally, collateral damage by the Israelis, or on purpose by the Hamas people. Tragically, one of the men saved, Almog Mir John, 22, when they went to inform his father, who had been praying for him and talking about him and waiting for him. I'll find out for you if he had gotten early information that the young man was in the process of being taken. They found his body dead. The dad's body was dead, and never got the notification that his son lived.
Was his father a hostage, or
no? His father was in the kibbutz from which they took the son.
Oh.
And he's been waiting for the return of his son. Um, he had been rescued earlier. I'm sorry.
Okay.
He had been rescued earlier, and he was in Israel. And I do think I read somewhere that they got early notification that they were rescued. Now, did he get it or not? But when they went to give him the ultimate good news, the notification that Mirjan was Almag Mirjan was alive, he was dead, which gives you an idea of the heartbreak here that's going on. And then after they got out the hostages, a very big gunfight ensued. We don't know how big, and we don't know how much of that is being used to try to make this into the Israelis attacked the civilians. Come on, isn't that getting old? And it was described by the military official, one of the main ones in charge. The main one died. Only casualty on the Israeli side was the commanding officer of the rescue unit, which reminds us of Bibi's brother, who was a great hero of Entebbe, the only one to survive, saved all the hostages. And one of the Israeli soldiers very wisely observed the following: there was a thin line between being a huge success and a huge failure. With that, we will take a short break as you contemplate that, and maybe T2T.org at this point. How did I know? This is perfect time for T2T.org. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Rudy Giuliani back with the Rudy Giuliani Show. We've just spent some time talking about the conviction of Hunter Biden. Too little, maybe not too late to get the rest. At least a vindication of American law that we can still do it right, and but certainly not enough. And not so much to punish Hunter, but to punish the whole enterprise, the whole Biden crime family. This is a spit in the bucket. If this is it, this is the end of it. They got away with one of the greatest crimes in American history. Not going to happen as long as there are patriots like me and others around. You know, I talked to Steve Bannon on the way back from the airport today, and the Navarro thing really got to me, and the Bannon thing really. Steve Bannon does not deserve to go to jail. He's questioning a legitimate legal issue about executive privilege. There's nothing in it that's going to change anything one way or the other. This is just pure nastiness, Ted.
That's right, Mayor. And look, I look back at 2016, 2 of the most important advisors, people surrounding the president's very successful 2016 campaign, you and Steve Bannon. And here they are ordering him to report to jail. on July 1st for 4 months. And this is happening 4 months before the election. So he's going to spend
July, August, September. What is it? July what?
July 1st. So July.
So we get out.
He gets out November 1st. So there's like 3 days left. He can come to the victory party. And so they're doing this to him, someone who we've talked about, right? Understands the Trump movement more than almost anyone. And
I look, I don't know how much they caught up this time around, so it's unfair to the present boys and girls there, men and women there. But the reality is that there's not going to be anybody that understands it better. Plus, from the outside, through his very successful radio and live cast shows and his appearances all over the country, he's kept up with it. I mean, I would go to Steve before I would go to anyone if I were to say, oh, like I used to do all the time, Steve, where do we have a better chance? We got a better chance in Minnesota or Wisconsin. Let's say the numbers right now. There's a poll with Biden ahead by 4 in Minnesota, but it's a confusing poll to a political strategist because his enthusiasm number 62%. The other guy is floating around the low 40s. So what does that mean? That let's say it's 40% for Biden and 62% for Trump. Trump's 40% is 62% motivated. Biden's 45% is only 40% motivated. Who's going to turn out more? I think you can answer that question, right? This is why they cheat. And this is why another reason why you can't prove they cheated just based on this, but it's part of the whole picture. How did this guy who had no enthusiasm, like 40%, 30%, how did he turn out the biggest vote in American history, bigger than Obama, bigger than Reagan, bigger than Trump, bigger than Hillary, bigger than... He didn't. He just didn't. He just did not. Hard to face. I know. And in order to face it, in order not to face it, you got to try to destroy me and other people. But as Steve Bannon said, in only Steve Bannon's words, ain't going to shut me up. Ain't going to shut me up. You slime traders.
we gotta have. Hopefully, there'll be a lot of good people there on July 1st. I don't want to call it some sort of support rally or something.
When I talked to Steve,
yeah,
right?
You mentioned. I don't want to give it away, but you did mention that. Yeah,
I mentioned it. But I want to see what you think of it because I couldn't tell if Steve was up. Maybe he wants to talk to his lawyer. Great lawyer, by the way, David Schoen. Whoa, great lawyer. Don't judge these lawyers by the outcome they get in a fixed courtroom. It's like having a fixed boxing match. They put rocks in your opponent's gloves and they give you nothing. So you throw a punch, your best punch, it shakes him up a little. He throws a punch and it kills you.
Yeah.
But David you listen to David on TV if you want. I mean, there are a lot of good guys on TV. I particularly like Doug Burns for any number of reasons, not the least of which he has a very good background as an assistant U.S. attorney and a government lawyer. His dad was deputy attorney general under Ronald Reagan. He's also a very, very active and good and honest defense lawyer. And his analysis is excellent. I could write down for you on a piece of paper, and you'd be surprised, some of them are not all necessarily on our side, but I could write down for you the ones that are capable of explaining it in English. They don't retreat into legalese. And some of them that retreat into legalese just don't know any better. I mean, they're just like they are. And some of them do because they're bullshit artists. So they go into legalese, you don't understand it, and what they're saying is bullshit. But you take a guy like Dershowitz, a guy like Doug, Heath Jarrett, who does it on Fox, who isn't a practicing lawyer, maybe because he's a combination journalist lawyer, very, very clear, precise explanations. The quality of analysis can be as good with somebody else, but if you're going to do it on TV and radio, you got to convey it quickly and easily. Now, I'll tell you a trick. That's also one of the things a good trial lawyer has to be. Trial lawyer, particularly if he wants to make a point clear, has to know how to make the law understandable. Examples are a good way to do it, the way Jesus taught, right? Parables. Good omen. Europe is going right, but it's not going hard right. This isn't, I know they're going to do the Nazism and the nationalism. Here's what they're upset about. Their country's being invaded by criminal aliens. Yeah, right. I don't know if that's far right. How about that's mainstream common sense? And the European left wing has done everything to hide it, make believe it's not happening, particularly in Germany, where they're getting overwhelmed like we are by illegals, and their economy is getting beaten to hell. So all throughout these EU elections, the right wing picked up massive numbers of votes and may have the dominating coalition in the EU. What a change that'll be. Wow, the communists won't be running the EU. They may stop running it to set up an alliance with the Chinese, the Soviets, and the Soros one nation wacko. It's happening, and it's happening in a lot of the smaller countries too. And what they say, and we'll do a little more of analysis of this tonight, it is moving the European balance to the middle is becoming right, whereas the middle had always been left for a period of time. It had become irresponsible left, and it's so bad that Macron. Well, I'll tell you about Macron. There's a very good story about Macron that I got from and I'm going to qualify it as not the most reliable informant, but a good informant. We'll be back in just a few minutes to listen to the story of Prime Minister Macron. Prime Minister Macron. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Oh, you caught me. I took a red eye with Ted. We took the plane at 11 o'clock from us. What is it? Sky High Airport or Sky Harbor? Sky Harbor.
It's interesting. They call it the Sky Harbor. There's no water hundreds of miles around, so I guess they decided to call their airport a harbor.
So
Sky Harbor Airport.
we took it at 11. We arrived here around 6:30. It was a long trek to the car that was taking us, and then the car was an hour and a half coming in from Kennedy. Right? Ted, who comes from Detroit, never experienced this. I mean, if this were a flight from Detroit to New York into New York, the ground transportation would have been longer than the air transportation.
Yeah.
So we didn't get in until about 9. Place is empty, and we had to unpack all our gear. You know, we travel with a television studio. I did some research to get ready for today. Ted did some research to get ready for today. He put the basic gear together, and boy, we just popped out.
Yeah.
We woke up about an hour before to get this all ready, and I have not had a cup of coffee. So I am waiting for the end of this show, and I am rushing into the kitchen. I'm putting these in a grinder. I'm going to make 8 cups. Bold, bold on bold.
Wow, just smelling it wakes you up.
And now wait until you see the night show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're going to want to tune in after the mayor has a few.
Give me a bite. Any bite.
Well, they're all there, so they're all in court today.
So Biden, Trump had to go see his probation officer. Yesterday, I had to get fingerprinted and photographed.
Can I say it, though?
My second time through.
They all wanted pictures. I think you took a picture with every single person we interacted with, except for, we won't get into it, but there was a little bit of we had a long paperwork. We had to stand there and do some paperwork. But other than that, everybody wanted pictures.
No, the same thing was true in Georgia, and they indicted me anyway.
Yeah.
But I really faked out Bob. Bob said, "Oh, they're not going to indict you." And Bob is an excellent lawyer, but and never is wrong. But on this one, he was wrong. He said, "I don't think Fanny's going." Oh, Fanny is upset. Fanny, and we're going to think about how to handle this. Fanny is upset that we're calling her Fanny the Hoe. She says it's sexist and racist. Now, I never thought of it that way. I just thought of it as she's a woman that seems to have loose morals, of which there are many white ones and black ones and green ones, and there are many men like that, too. She just happens to be, if it were a man, maybe I'd call him Joe, Crooked Joe, or Joe the Bum, or Joe the Pervert. How often do I call him Joe the Pervert? What, is that sexist? Yeah, I mean, I thought he was a pervert from the minute he started smelling girls' hair. The whole part is meant to cover any number of things. Not only her messing around with her number two person, but also the way in which she conducts herself. That statement on under oath, in which she took her campaign money and used it for personal expenses, which to me is the perfect indication that we're facing a totally crooked jurisdiction there, because they're doing nothing about it. I mean, how this woman can remain as a district attorney when she admitted taking campaign money for funds, I don't know. But maybe Ho is a little bit off the mark. Maybe we should call her campaign cash Fanny, or Fanny the campaign thief, or something like that. What she surely isn't is a decent lawyer or a person. That she isn't. So Fanny, yes, we intended offense, but not in the way your woke defenders are trying to misinterpret it. Let's be clear. We're criticizing Fanny for putting together a completely phony case in which she has taken the legitimate actions of decent lawyers and is trying to ruin their career. She is trying to put the former president of the United States and his former lawyer in jail until they die, with no evidence of wrongdoing at all. She conducted a grand jury that was wacky as it could get. This is a grand jury in which at the end, they wanted photographs, autographs. Fanny wanted me to come to her office.
We're getting some
for a meeting.
Oh, sorry.
So this was like, so Fanny, we'll see if we can get more on the mark for you, okay?
We have a commenter with a good one. I want to see if we can noodle on this. Fanny Pack campaign finance. So someone maybe getting Fanny Pack in there somewhere. Fanny like campaign cash Fanny Pack.
Yeah,
something like that.
Come up.
I'm sure that's racist and misogynist.
We'll work on it to see if we can offend her again. And also get the woke group out to come up with some kind of to only work, it would have to be racist. It would have to be xenophobic. It would have to be one of those, or all. It would have to be, what else is bad? If you
they love the word xenophobic. That was a new one under Trump. Xenophobic.
If you accuse her of being a heterosexual, that's probably bad, because none of them want to be heterosexuals, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Well, that coffee wakes me up just smelling it. Let's see. Open that. Let's zoom in on the beans here.
Where?
Oh wow! Look at those beans. You can tell just by looking at them that those are some strong.
How dark they are.
Strong.
And they seem to be I'm not going to say watery, but they seem to have their humidity in them, right? Yeah. Look, it's almost like you almost can see water at the top. It isn't.
Maybe it was because we were in the desert for a few
No,
days.
I don't know. No, I think they're like this. It means they're very fresh.
Yeah. Oh, you get the best. You only use Arabica beans, and they're grown at the right altitude where they don't have to use the same amount of insecticide.
Stay tuned tonight. We'll keep over. I mean, we'll make a cup, have one, and then we'll have one tonight. Even though I don't think anything will keep me up late tonight after my all night. You know,
The red eye.
My red eye. With a comfortable red eye, though. I watched the Churchill movie, part of it. I fell asleep for 2 hours of it. I fell asleep for the entire middle, but I got him being brought in as the savior, and I got him being the savior. Boy, could we use one of those? I think maybe it's Donald Trump, don't you? Don't you? So he had his probation interview, which is kind of ridiculous. Nancy Pelosi, they put out a strange one on her in which she took accountability for not having the National Guard.
We got to play it tonight.
January 6th. Did they deny that Trump offered them the National Guard?
Yeah, we got to play that tonight.
When in fact there are like 4 or 5 witnesses that he did. And I mean, would you like me as a witness? I remember him talking about the National Guard. But in any event, she said, it's a very brief one, so hard to know how this is going to fit in. She said, we have responsibility, Terry, which is Terry's Pelosi chief of staff. We have responsibility for the National Guard not being there.
Yeah.
Now, this, of course, has been Republican contentions and mine throughout that. Let's deal with just a very, very obvious little factual framework, and you tell me what you think. When the crowd that ultimately contained Ashley Babbitt, who had done nothing violent before she had been slaughtered for no reason, or for very, very, very little reason having anything to do with danger to the police officer. Her crowd that she was with, and she was surely not the leader of the crowd. If anything, she seemed to be a peacemaker. But the crowd approached, and there were 2 very large police officers standing in front of Nancy Pelosi's entrance to her suite. And they seemed to have it under control very, very clearly. Maybe we'll show this little piece tonight, Ted, huh?
Yeah.
Not the whole part, just a little piece where the crowd comes up. They didn't look very dangerous to me. They sure wouldn't have looked dangerous if you were a 6'2" a police officer with arms. And then it really wouldn't look serious if you knew, because you have to flip ahead to see this. You don't see it immediately. Right across the way from them were a bunch of police officers in storm gear. We'll take a good look again to see if they had like machine guns, but they had guns. And it seemed, and all you would have needed were 3 or 4 of them to contain this crowd. And it seemed that they had more. And then when you look over afterwards and you see where the killer was, because you see a whole bunch of cops there too. So now if you want to do this like a professional, you recreate the murder scene. They did not secure Nancy's door. They surrendered it. The police did, when they could have by bringing the stormtroopers over and putting them in front of the door. They then watched as the others banged the door down. They then watched as Ashley Babbitt got up higher than the rest, either on her own or with help, and then was immediately shot by a gun. John Sullivan, who's doing this very, very fortuitously for the point of view of the value of his movie, gets the gun but not the person. And you see her shot dead. You realize then she's unarmed, she's 5'2", she did nothing threatening. Worst thing that would have happened is she would have come over the transom and fallen on her backside. And on that side of the transom, there were 6 cops. They could have grabbed her and put her under arrest. Instead, they sent her into eternity. And it was done by one man who John Sullivan was very careful not to photograph. I saw that for the first time on the evening of January 6th. Please excuse me that since January 6th, I have believed that this was a setup. Commit murder. Well, thank you very much for listening in. Please tune in tonight at 8. We're gonna finish up our coffee thing here, and we're gonna finish up the little piece here on Ashley Babbitt, which we intend to never forget. And we're gonna take a look at what lies ahead for the Biden crime family on the air in two areas. One, the justice of it, and two, what does this do? What does this do to the campaign? And then a couple of the protests, including the one here in Manhattan, which is really kind of sad. This is an exhibit of all the horrors of October 7, and you got these crazy protesters in favor of terrorism out there, which is the way they should be described. Protesters in favor of terrorism. They should be described that way. I'm gonna leave by showing you one of the young ladies who they're waiting for. This is Rami Gonin. They were hoping she was going to be released. They don't know what kind of condition she's in, but she's being held by the monsters. So say a prayer for Ronnie. Look at that sweet young girl. And those protesters are protesting for the people holding her. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people in the United States. And of course, God bless the whole United States. We'll see you later.